like, I love sales because the more no's you hear, the closer you are to a yes. Like we can't work with everyone, even with the it does I have a very low ceiling. So for me, just being able to function on the floor is just a huge achievement. Learned was how to actually like the Copywriting networking. I ended up getting an internship at an incubator. So that was my first taste into entrepreneurship.
All right, Brett Kaufman, how's it going, man?
Good. Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, man, the pleasure's all ours. And I know I want to jump into this real quick. I got to get your update on. I remember when we last talked via Zoom, you were saying that you're really into salsa dancing. So I got to ask, man, like what's the update with that? Like has there been improvement? Are you looking to do like a show at some point? Like fill me in.
Listen, as a white guy with two left feet, it doesn't I have a very low ceiling. So for me, just being able to function on the floor is just a huge achievement. But I started taking classes for sensual bachata, which is like it's a different style of bachata dancing, and that's so hard because for me, learning salsa and bachata is like staying on count. And now my instructor's like, forget it, just flow with the music. I'm like, I can't even hear when a song changes. It's so like, you just literally, it's all about like flowing with yourself and not keeping track of the step count. So that's been a whole new challenge, but it's been super, super fun.
For sure, man. I know Chris has two left feet, so.
There you go. So he gets me.
But I praise you for that, man. That's a beautiful like skill and thing to learn. So definitely, I had to ask you that. But I want to ask too, man, let's keep it kind of like on the culture type of stuff. I was doing some research and you had mentioned that you were living in Israel when you were 19 for quite some time, which I thought that was super interesting. And you said that you were a promoter. You wanted to be a promoter to like, get in with people, all this stuff. So talk to me about like that experience, and what you learned from, being a promoter, like skills and stuff that carried over to now.
Oh, sure. That's actually a great question. So I was 19. I was living abroad. It was my sophomore year in college. And like most guys at that time, if you wanted to get into clubs, you either had to be super rich or had to have like a lot of just beautiful women with you. And that's how you got to bypass a line. And I had neither. And I wanted to have a good time in the city. And so I ended up finding my way into becoming a promoter. So I was that guy walking the streets of Tel Aviv and the beach being like, hey, like I can get you into the club, like, use my code, like all that cringy stuff that whenever you see a promoter walking up to you. But what that taught me, which is huge, it taught me networking, like how to walk up to people, even when you're like scared to do it, and how to, I guess you call like land the plane in the conversation. Cause most people are like, it's nerve wracking when you meet someone new. So how to like smoothly integrate yourself and make the person feel comfortable when you're talking to them. So those are like two huge lessons I got out.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are really, really good skill sets, right? I mean, especially building your network. I mean, I'm sure you built a nice network doing that. And I want to know too, man, like just even that experience living in Israel, just a completely different country from the States. Like what were some breakthroughs you had just mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, just that time being there?
Oof, so many. I mean, that trip, the reason I went to that trip was because of a previous trip I went on in 2011. 2011, I was 17 and I was my fourth quarter in high school. And I went on this. It's just like kind of like on the whim and random because I never lived abroad. I never like really traveled that far abroad and I really wanted to go on it. And I just fell in love with the country. Now I still don't speak any Hebrew and I should after living there for so long, but that's a whole nother story. But being there and just like immersing yourself in a different world and culture was just like the coolest and biggest shock to like your nervous system. So you very much had to learn to like get around and survive. So when I was there, one of the biggest things that I learned was how to actually like Copywriting networking. I ended up getting an internship at an incubator. So that was actually my first taste into entrepreneurship before I even wanted to become an entrepreneur. And at that time, I was working at a startup that his job was to like bring in foreign investors. It was called StarTal and different projects in Israel. So I don't know why they trusted a 19-year-old on the phone calling like foreign countries and be like, yeah, bring this person too here. Because we were doing like an Israeli Shark Tank version, but they trust me on that job. So like I had to learn how to like negotiate with people and with no training. They literally, Israel taught me like, you're on your own, like figure it out. And that was one like a really fun experience for me.
Right on, right on.
Yeah. What would you say too, man? Like you said that you were in the business of like, wanting to be a promoter, and then like you learned negotiation skills, and they put you in an investment company where you're just doing like some cold calling, trying to negotiate. What did that kind of do like as far as carrying over to your business that you do right now with copywriting?
I think it really taught me like to stop caring about what other people think, which is so hard because, it's very much, it all pops in, always comes back. You always worry about what people think regardless of you. But like there, I literally was like, I have a job to do. And if I don't do it, I will get repercussions. Like I'll get in trouble because of it. And I think that was one of the biggest things. So in my job too, when I have a bad day with our business, like I'm responsible for my two partners. I'm responsible for making sure we can cover payroll. So it's like, I think the coolest thing about that was like, even on your worst days, like you have to show up and do it regardless of what's happening because other people are depending on you. And when I switched from that mindset, it makes it so much easier when you're like, all right, like I can do it. Like just get it done. You can rest later. And that was a huge belief that really ingrained in me during that year.
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately, like when you think about it, like you said, you shift your mindset like that, man. You make it about serving other people, right? It's not about you. So it's like if you care that you're going out there, you're being too aggressive, you're cold calling, you're trying to network too hard, you're thinking too much like it's about you. You know what I mean? But like when you said you shifted your mindset like that, and you have a team to kind of provide for, and they have jobs, and maybe they have families to provide for, that makes it a whole different game that you have to kind of level up to, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's another thing I wanted to just kind of pivot and shift gears on, Brett. I know you talked about this. I saw one of the reels too on your Instagram. You talked about like you were going through a state of depression when you were younger. And I think this is a great topic to touch on just because, again, man, we're post-COVID. There's a lot going on in the world, just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of people just living in what I call fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So, I mean, talk to me, like what was that? Why were you going through that state of depression, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah. So I actually came back from that year abroad in Israel, and I had an amazing time because at the internship, a great experience. I rescued a dog that just walked in here. Her name is Lila, brought her back to the States. And I went back now my junior in college, and my atmosphere in college was completely different than my atmosphere in Israel. And because of that, my body went through like extreme culture shock, where it was just like kind of like dropped back into an atmosphere after like having this incredible year where it was so hard for me to relate to anyone because of it and kind of explain what I went through. And so my body started shutting down, and it got to the point where I like lost the ability to speak. So I would walk around with a notebook, and I would like write on the notebook and show it to people when I had to really communicate, because like my mouth was like just like cemented shut. It was like a really like dark time, and like during that time, like I planned like suicide, like what the day was going to happen and like how it was going to happen. And and thank God, like I checked myself into therapy. And through the help of group therapy and one-on-one therapy, I was able to get through it. But I think it happened because when we forget, number one, if we don't ask for help, then it really like it builds up. And that's what happened to me. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know what to actually specifically ask for help for, because you don't want to bother anyone with your problems. You feel guilty. At least I felt guilty going through it. And that was one. And then number two, that I didn't do enough every day, like to keep myself like in a good mindset. Cause like truly like your brain's going to like go on the path that it thinks it is. So, okay, today we're thinking negative. So here's all these negative thoughts. Today we're thinking positive. Like you control that. And I didn't really know how to fix that. So I was just spiraling down, and thank God what allowed me to fix it was therapy. And also I started studying people I wanted to be like. And at the time it was like Tony Stark and Harvey Specter, you know, it's like now I was a 22-year-old, like single guy in college. Like these are those kind of guys I looked up to, and studying those type of people, like I was like, oh, here's how to be witty. Here's how to be charismatic. And so I literally removed who old Brett was, which was like depressed Brett, and inserted a Brett that was a hodgepodge of all these different characters combined. And that, interestingly enough, like propelled me really through like the last stage of being depressed.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you just being vulnerable and just sharing that, you know, because I know, I mean, who knows, some of the listeners might be going through something like that. Like we're living in some really interesting times, but I would imagine that being hard, right? Where it's like, you don't really know what's going on. Like, why am I feeling like this? And like, who do I turn to? What do I even say to ask like for help? It's difficult. So what would you say to someone that is just having those type of just like same emotions and thoughts right now? What would be like the first thing you would tell them to do?
So the first thing is probably talking to someone about it will be difficult. So write a letter to yourself.
Got it.
And write a letter exactly how you're feeling, because then it will train you on how to say it, because you'll read it back and go like, first off, be honest with yourself. Because again, the first thought in your brain is that this is just going to me. I'm the only one that's going to read it. So you're going to slowly trick your brain. So step one, you're writing a letter to yourself. I'm the only one that's going to read this letter. And then you put it away in a drawer, come back to a few days later, and then you say, okay, if I was going to show it to someone, who would I show it to? But the idea is now you literally have the conversation to show someone. You may not actually be able to tell someone, but just imagine just giving them a letter, just be like, hey, it's hard for me to describe it, but I wrote it down and I wanted to give this to you. And that was like, that's something I did as well. And that was really, really helpful.
That's good.
Because it's so hard to talk about it.
Yeah. Powerful.
Yeah. And just to kind of add on to that question too, Brett, is like, whenever you get into that like negative mindset, right, these days, because you know how entrepreneurship is, man, it can be up and down. There's a lot of emotions that go into it, you know, for myself too. I mean, there's times where I wake up negative or pissed off and I got to get myself out of that. You know what I mean? Just to be 100% real and transparent. What do you do like right now to get yourself out of that negative state?
Yes. So I'm really strict. So, I was gonna say I'm really strict in my morning routine, but not like, then I was about to catch myself. I'm strict in doing going to what I call anchor events. And what I mean by that is you have to find out what makes you like feel good. What makes you feel good is being around other people. Socializing makes you feel good. So I always make sure that I have like 3 or 4 events that I know, like I do salsa dancing we just talked about. I do that once a week. There's something in Miami that's called 420 yoga, which is super fun. You can bring joints and do yoga. It's super fun. But I have a lot of friends that go to that. So it's like, I'm always finding like Shabbat meals. I'm Jewish. I love that. So I'm always finding at least 3 to 4 events during the week that are set in my schedule that I know I'm not going to miss unless I'm traveling, that I know I'm having those anchor moments. So I'm like, great, even if I'm having a shitty day, I'm going to salsa dancing tonight. Nice. So that's 1 endorphin kick. 2, go on walks. I'm a big Broadway musical geek, and I think it's because I love the storytelling of the words behind it. So whenever I'm not feeling good, I have a specific playlist I can pop on that like gets my brain like for inspiration. And so like basically you find out what makes you feel good and repeat those things. So for me, it's listening to that kind of music, those anchor events. Meditating helps and journaling helps, but I'm always trying to like, I know what works well for me for my body, and that person needs to figure out what works for them for their body. So music, moving my body, lifting, working out, dancing, like that kind of stuff feels good for me. So that's what I just constantly push myself to whenever I feel off.
Yeah. I can't get over that whole 420 yoga thing. That's like, that's such a cool concept.
It's really fun.
Chris wants to try that now.
Come down to Miami. We'll take you. It's every Saturday at 420.
I love Miami, to be honest, man. So if we're ever over there, we'll definitely take you up on that.
Hit me up.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. Let's shift gears here, right? So I want to talk about like your expertise within copywriting, right? So it's a 2-part question, right? Number 1, what is captive copywriting? And number 2, why is it so important for the business owner these days?
Yeah. Everything is copywriting. So since the dawn of day, since there was cavemen that were writing on the cave walls, like that was copywriting. It was communicating a message. And then it turned into people in the street shouting messages at you, right? So like, buy this, buy that product. Like anytime someone is trying to sell you something, that's copywriting. So whether it's written or whether it's verbal. And so it's so imperative because now we shift in an age where people buy online. There's less and less dependency on being on the phone. And, you know, we have clients that we sell products for that are super high ticket. They don't even need a phone call, right? This could be $5, $10, $20,000, depending on what it is. And so your ability to communicate exactly what you do, exactly how you can solve their problem, and most importantly, make them feel understood is what allows you to generate sales. So I know a lot of people are really good on the phone, but imagine you're not able to get anyone on the phone. Copywriting gets them there. Copywriting warms them up. Copywriting closes them. Copywriting ensures that even if you never have a phone call, that they will want to buy because they feel like they're directly speaking to you like we are now. That's the power of it. And that's why it's imperative in everyone's business.
No, I couldn't agree more. And then like something you said too was just about like your voice is everything. So would you say too that like copywriting is going to literally just like make you just bring out your true authentic voice so people can get to know, like, and trust you. And obviously, right, at some point, invest in your guys' program or products.
Yeah. It also just makes you a better communicator, right? Because now you have to be able to explain what you want to say in words. And then what you'll find out is like, maybe you're not explaining things as well as you thought you were, which probably is hurting your sales ability. It's not that you can't answer objection. Maybe you're just not as clear on how to help them in a certain way because you think it makes sense in your mind, but you're not using their language to do it. So it's such a great exercise to improve your sales ability. Because I came from this phone sales world first before becoming a writer. And when I started to write out what I would say to them on a phone call, like my sales skyrocketed because I was able to then see the holes in my, not argument, but see the holes in my flow of like, here's where they're getting stuck or I'm losing the sale. Here's what I need to say in order to fix that. It's like watching game film. It was the perfect way to plug in the holes and increase my closing rate.
Yeah. And we got a lot of health and fitness coaches and other coaches too that listen to this podcast, Brett. So what would be maybe some resources that could really enhance that skill? Because I do believe in like really, everybody needs to enhance that copywriting skill to literally a baseline level to where they can eventually outsource that to somebody that's better. All right, just give me 1 second. We'll get back to the training. Okay. Now look, if you are looking to enhance your content, if you're looking to really build what we call a content machine, okay, we have this awesome worksheet for you. So just check out the link below and you guys can download this awesome worksheet where there's like 3 or 4 different type of like exercises in there. You guys can really roll out some brand new content for your guys' online audience, your guys' brand, your offer. Okay. Now back to the training.
Totally. So shameless plug, buy our course. It is the best copywriting course on the planet. We'll give you a discount code if you're listening to it, but it's called Captivating Copywriting. Aside from the shame.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, where can they find that plug?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll send you the link. It normally retails at $1,500, but for anyone that comes from the show, I'll give it to you for $1,000. We'll teach you everything on copywriting, from how to write headlines, how to write your offer. Like my partner, John, has a course called Practice Verde, which sells a $555 writing course, and we price anchor it. So price anchoring means taking the price of it and then putting it, associating to something that is in their everyday life. And we price anchor it to the cost of a Chipotle burrito. And because it's something that everyone knows, Chipotle, and we spell out, and we do the math of how much Chipotle you need to eat to make this, to buy the course. It did so well because everyone can relate to it. So point being is it's super fun and in-depth way of learning. So aside from that, my favorite exercise to just get you better immediately is take all your recorded sales calls and put them into otter.ai and transcribe them. Then take 3 highlighters and take a blue one, a green one, and a red one. So red is like everything that they're afraid of or any kind of objection that you hear. Green is anything to do with money, and blue is like their hopes and dreams. And you start marking this. Then you take that, your color markers, and then you put it in another Google Doc, and you now literally get to see what people are saying word for word on why they're buying or not buying. And that's a copy you get to test. Throw that on your organic post, throw that in your emails, and you'll see people respond better because you're literally taking your prospects' words and you're throwing it back at them. And it's like attracts likes. You get more people that want to buy from you.
Yeah, dude, go ahead.
I was like, dude, that's slick.
Yeah.
I've never heard that with like different colors of highlighting. I mean, I've heard of like transcribing things, which we tell our students to do all the time, with their sales skills and stuff. But the highlighter thing, I'm like, that's actually really clever.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also I can imagine that could be even like social media content too, that's speaking to like their specific avatar and niches, pain points, wants, desires, fears, frustration, the whole shebang, right?
Yeah. Because it eliminates guessing.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me rephrase. It gets you much closer where you're not guessing. Because, when you sit down, what makes us very good is we're good at stepping into you and then writing to your person. But I do the same exercise when we write copy for ourselves. I'm like, let me take all my sales calls and just make that process so much easier. I guess when I have more of the data available to make it at least a more educated guess.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that, Brent. We'll definitely, me and Chris are going to have to, try that out.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Let me know. I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Absolutely. Dude, I always like to ask when we have entrepreneurs on this show, because everyone has like a different like expertise, like a different gift, talent. So like, what would you say like your zone of genius is that you've discovered? I'm sure you're going to evolve and stuff, but what would you say right now your zone of genius is?
I think it would be what I call conscious closing. And what I mean by that is, as a former douchey bro marketer, and I'm a reformed one, went to a lot of therapy and rehab for that, the way I close now and talk to anyone is like, I just want to make sure that you like know exactly what working together would look like and make sure you feel comfortable with this decision. And if you don't, then it's completely okay. So I think my superpower is making someone feel very comfortable and then being able to communicate clearly on what this could do for you and then just letting you make the decision on your own. So sometimes my sales cycle goes longer because of that, but I find that the people that do end up enrolling, the success is comes much faster because we're all on the same page and they're ready to give us everything that we need. And we're ready to work together hand in hand to make in this case, like their funnels convert even higher. So I think I just got really good at slowing down and making sure that they feel very confident and comfortable every stage of our process talking together.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. You said conscious closing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because one of our sales coaches too, and we teach this actually to our students as well too. He called it inspo selling, so it's inspirational selling. So all you're doing really is inspiring that person to take action. It doesn't have to be anything sleazy, unethical, or anything like that. Just make sure they're comfortable and they're inspired to take action. Yeah,
they'll do the rest. Like I love sales because the more no's you hear, the closer you are to a yes. Like we can't work with everyone, even if we have the best product in the world. Like realistically, you just want to work with the people that are the best fit for you. And that's also making sure that they're like, you know what, this isn't the right fit for me. Great, no problem. And then it brings you one step closer to the right fit.
Yeah, exactly. And then did you have any like mentors or like real key coaches, like within like copywriting or sales or anything like that?
So so my first job out of college was working for a bipartisan pro-Israel lobby organization called AIPAC. And I loved it because my job was to cold call over 100 people a day and generate my own meetings and ask them for like anywhere between $1,800 to $100,000 first time meeting them. And you don't even get like a tax write-off. You just get like a pat on the back knowing you're helping a good cause. And my manager was a former Super Bowl winning lineman for the Dallas Cowboys and used to play for the Packers. And he was an undrafted free agent out of it. Now is Texas A&M, but it was like a school before Texas A&M. I guess they bought it or whatever, changed their name. And he's 6'7", and he was undrafted. So as an undersized lineman, he obviously had to make the team and win a Super Bowl because he played on the Troy Aikman, on Emmitt Smith. Like he played on like those baller teams. Oh, cool. And he was the best manager I could have ever had coming out of the gates because he taught me to like discipline. He was like, he made sure I, anytime I slacked off, talk about like that, like he was in my face. Like he was the biggest hard ass on me ever because he saw the potential. And I was terrified of going into his office for the first 6 months working with him, where I'll just give him a check and run away. But that man taught me so much about like you can do anything. Look at me, I'm an undersized lineman and I made it to the biggest level and I won. Like you can do the same thing. So he taught me more about life and business, and I've had incredible mentors, but like that was the perfect mentor to just kind of like to make me very confident that I could become an entrepreneur when I was ready to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
That's awesome. And we're huge on mentorship and stuff. And I know you have, you work with John Romanello, so yeah, he's got a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience too. And what would you say, like just out of all your mentors, like what's the best piece of advice that they've given you that you just really ran with and just been like, man, that just hit, like that just stuck with me?
Shit, there's so many. There is. So I'll just go through the ones that pop into my mind. I have one mentor. His name is Parker Liziski. He was one of my first ones. And we did a lot of Bob Proctor training. And so the one thing that stuck in my mind from him was like, everything you need is already within you now. Where like, you got it. Like you can always figure it out. And so that was really good for just like building your confidence. John's is huge for writing in regards of like, it's all about like, if you want your copy to be better, like read it out loud, right? That was probably one of the big things I learned from him, and just how to like, just make sure my sentences flow better and everything is concrete. I have another mentor on more the marketing side, and his whole thing, which I love, is like, it's actually unethical for you not to sell people if you truly believe you can help them.
Yeah, I love that.
And I love that too, because also it's like, it can contradict if you heard what we were previously talking about, but if you know that you can truly help them, and then you're not being crystal clear on how you can do it, like it's unethical. And I was like, oh, I really, really, really like that.
Yeah.
And so and then my last one, this is more for like a rabbi that I, because I used to study like Torah study when I was living in Israel, and I was living in a cave at this time, as a whole another experience. But there's a in Judaism, you're supposed to give 10% of your money away, and God rewards you by giving you that money back. And so and they literally say this is the one commandment that you can test. And so the idea is the more you give back, which we see around a lot in the personal development space. So whenever we ever had a bad month, then I first thought it's like, give money, because I've always seen it come back, and it just makes you feel good. So those are, I guess, the four like big things I've always taken away.
Gold, Brett.
Yeah. Let's switch gears here, man. Let's talk a little bit more about lifestyle, right? So the first question I want to ask with lifestyle is like, let's just say, Brett, super deep, right? If you had 5 years to live, what would you stop doing right now?
I would get back into politics. I would get back into lobbying like that. So I recently went to Poland. Last year I went to Poland, and I posted a reel about this today, where my family lives in. My family was originally from Israel, but the Romans kicked us out, and then we were in Poland. So it was a Holocaust remembrance trip. So I obviously got to see the town where my family was wiped out of, and I got to go to Auschwitz, and I got to just all this very, very heavy trip, and it was an incredible trip because you got to see people that my family members, my aunts and uncles, that literally could not speak for themselves because of the situation that they were in, completely out of their control. And I remember this one area that will be with me. This moment will be with me forever. I was in this field. It was a beautiful. First off, do you mind if I go? This is kind of heavy. Is it cool if I go down this?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I like to ask because it's so imagine a beautiful soccer field, and it was the winter, and so it recently snowed, and it's kind of a big, I guess it looks like that. So it's a long U, and recently snowed, and there's trees outlining it. So that's what I mean by the trees there. And the tour guide we were with told us to kind of walk 10 yards away from each other. And he walked up to me and he's like, move your boot against the snow. So I moved my boot against the snow, and I look down and I pick up teeth and bones of the Jews that were there that the Nazis couldn't destroy, that they tried to, but they couldn't. And he was telling me they would put the Jews in the van from a different area. This is before the gas chambers were operational. They would gas them in the vans and then put them here. And if they're alive, shoot them and throw them in the pits. That's how they would exterminate us. And so in that moment, naturally I bawled and broke down. And it solidified, let's say, going back to your question, 5 years left, that tooth of someone in my family that can't speak for themselves anymore, that's only crime was that they were born a Jew, is the reason why, if I have 5 years left, and the reason why I'm working on projects behind the scenes now, is so I can always make sure that anti-Semitism will be defeated and nothing like that ever happened in World War II will ever happen again to my people or any other people. So anytime someone works with us, in my mind, I'm like, yes, I can write you fantastic words. And I'm so grateful because that money is going to fund a project of mine that's going to help solve this problem, or I don't know, solve, but really help stop the problem in the future. I'd love for it to solve it. And so I'm always thinking I only have 5 years left. So I'm always thinking where does my money go? How can I make a difference now? If I was, God forbid, to die in 5 years, I know that when I go upstairs that I've done my part to help. So it's a great question.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Honestly, respect. I got to do a fist bump here for that.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate that story, man. Much respect. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So another question. I mean, are you familiar with the 4 pillars of life?
No, tell me about them.
Okay, so it's health, wealth, love, and happiness. That's just something that we stand by. We love talking about this on the podcast as well too. So, I like for my guests to give just short, kind of actionable things, that they could do within the context of each pillar. So for health, wealth, love, and happiness, what are just some short go-tos that you've had success with you could just provide to the listeners?
Sure. Health, hire a trainer, spend the money. I mean, your audience, they know it, right? That works. It's easy. I have a great trainer and he makes me look good. So anytime someone compliments my body, I'm like, Body by David, this is all him. Wealth, if they're listening to the podcast, hire you guys because you guys are great at what you do.
Appreciate that.
For me, for wealth, it is invest smart. So what I mean by that is invest in your business. And then once your business is self-sufficient, pour into other long-term investments. So think about it like baseball, get on base, and then every once in a while hit the home run. So the idea is I'm always investing just very easy index funds, very easy ETFs, and then of course growing my business. And then I have a home run thing that if it fails, well, there's a reason why you strike out and hit a home run at the same time. So be smart with your money. Was it health, wealth,
love, and then happiness?
Love, call your mom often.
Dude, that's good.
All the time. Because she's the only one that's loved you unconditionally when you're the biggest brat in the world and will never not love you. Happiness. I guess I'm not coining the phrase, but it's what I describe when I go out in Miami like 6 nights a week, and it's not partying, it's events.
Yeah.
So find your anchor events, which means for me, I'm social. So I like to be around people. Find the things in your week that are anchors that you're doing minimum 3 to 4 times. That means even if you have like a bad week, you have 3 to 4 good dopamine spike activities that are ingrained in your schedule. So how could you really have a bad week if you have these happy moments that are mandatory for you to go to and to doing something that makes you feel good? So have your anchor events in whatever capacity that is for you.
Those are good.
Man, I was going to say, Brett, if you have a cup of water there, pour it on that mic, man. It's on fire.
I need it. I'm like losing my voice over here.
Well, Brett, I just want to say before I ask the last question in this whole entire conversation, it's been super awesome. And I want to commend you and just say thank you so much for, number one, coming on the show. Number two, just spreading your expertise, your wisdom, your knowledge, all the adventures like you've been through, like living in Israel and just like the past jobs and careers you've had, man, all the lessons, all the assignments. And just thank you for being so real and transparent and honest and just being able to share that with the listeners that it could really impact their lives.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. And I just want to say thanks too, man. Like I know we spoke over a month ago and connected and stuff, and you gave us some really good, valuable, just like tips and stuff on content. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Guys.
All right. So what does it mean to Brett Kaufman to live a dynamic lifestyle?
It means, I think it ties into your question of you having only 5 years left, that if you were to pass away before your time is called, did you do everything in your power to make sure that you live the best life? And so I think part of that is you need to take the time to find out what you don't like and you like. So then for you to be unclear on like what actually makes you happy. So you got to spend a lot of time trying new things and experimenting. That's, I think, was a big thing that I did the past 2 years, was spending more money on experiences I've ever had. And out of my group, I'm probably more a fiscally conservative one. But I wanted to see like, what do I like? What do I don't like? What kind of life would I want? Who do I really want to be around? And it's really helped me gain clarity because it's the time, I'm 28, don't have a family of my own.
Yep.
So it's like when you're in this time period where you don't have a lot of external responsibilities, you need to invest in experiences for you to know what you like and help you live your dynamic life.
Yeah. 100%, man.
Love that, man. I was going to say, Brett, you're wise beyond your years, man. You are really, really good head on your shoulders, at age 28, man. So it's impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So what can we support you with? And where can the listeners connect with you?
Yes. So the listeners, go to wearewellspringmedia.com, and then you can sign up for our email list. On the email list, you will get access to a training called Posts for Profits, which is all about writing captivating posts in order to drive more people into your business. And so we like to give that away as a special thank you. And for you guys for support, just keep inspiring people. Obviously, if you ever want to work together on any funnel stuff, you know who to call. If you know of any other amazing podcasts for me to be on that are just as great as you guys, love any introductions that you have.
Absolutely. And then what's your Instagram? Because you do post some really good stuff.
Yeah. Brett, BRETT, Kaufman, KAUFMAN. The number is 26.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll have all that linked up in the show notes. So guys, go follow Brett. He's doing some great stuff. You guys heard him the last 30-ish minutes, just drop some good stuff. So Brett, appreciate your time, man. Thank you for everything. And we'll catch up with you next time.
Looking forward to it.
All right, guys, until the next episode.
I hope you got a ton of value from that conversation we had with Brett, again, with attractive copywriting, really how to captivate your audience and attracting those high paying clients with like your voice, your unique messaging to match it, right? So now that you guys have like those skills, you can go out there and get like some of those high paying clients. You got to be able to close. And there's no better video to watch with this interview with Grant Cardone we did right here on closing. He's one of the masters in closing. Check out this interview with Grant Cardone.